The day.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Alec Torelli. Welcome to the hand of the day from the top of the world in Laguna Beach. This hand comes from my reader, Steven. He's playing a 2-5 game at the Borgata. Interesting spot here coming up for the hand of the day. And so it gets folded around to the cutoff. Cutoff makes it 20, good pro. And Steven's in the big blind with 7-5 of diamonds, considers 3-betting, but he writes to me and says, look, every time the cutoff opens, he opened big, he's a good player, he probably has a hand he could defend a 3-bet with, and I don't want to get involved out of position when I could just call and see the flop. I like that logic. Calling's fine here. 7-5 of diamonds, a good hand to play. We call, go heads up to the flop. Flop comes 8-6-4. We flop a joint, flop the absolute nuts. Well done. Sexy spot to be in. We check, which I think is totally fine. We should be checking here pretty much all the time. And the button now bets 30 into a pot of 42. So Steven's logic, which I agree with, was like a lot of the times he noticed a pattern in the cutoff's play. Excuse me, I said the button before. He noticed a pattern in his opponent's play. And he noticed that this pattern was that a lot of times this guy missed the flop, he checked back. So when he had ace-king and he missed, he would just check back and play for showdown. So why that's so important and why it's so important to pay attention to hands when you're not in them and why it's so important to have this information is because you can use that and say, well, wait a minute. If some of the time he checks back the flop, when he bets, what does that mean? It means he probably connected with it in some way because he showed the tendency to give up or check back or not bet 100% of the flop. So that means when he's not betting flops 100% of the time, being the pre-flop raiser, means that when he does bet, it gives you more information about the types of hands he's likely to have. In this case, I think it makes his hand likely to be stronger because this flop could have connected with the big blind. And if he's going to check back like hands with showdown value like ace high or maybe bottom pair or whatever, when he bets on a flop like this, it means he must have connected. And he probably has some decent equity, right? Even if he has a draw, he probably has something that connected with this board. So Steven uses that logic to his advantage, well done Steven, and decides to raise. He makes it 85 here. Now I love Steven's logic, but what I would advise, maybe like a piece of like subtle bet sizing strategy that you can use here is, given that you know all this stuff that we discussed, your opponent doesn't bet the flop all the time. When he does, he probably has it. He probably connected with this board, and he's probably has a hand that could withstand a check raise. Why not raise a little bit bigger? I mean, you make it 85, he's calling 55 into a pot of like 150 or something. He's getting such a good price, he's gonna call with anything. And while you want him to call, in the long run, there's times where you're gonna want him to fold because you could be bluffing here. You're gonna wanna raise bigger when you're raising here, right? So I would raise like 125 and really put the pressure on now and make a stand on the flop and have him be in a tough spot where he knows that if he calls this bet on the flop, you know, it's setting it up for a big bet on the turn and an all-in jam on the river, applying a max pressure on the flop. So it really makes that flop play so much stronger when the raise size is bigger because that compounds throughout the hand. And now that flop raise is really damn threatening because he knows, shoot, if I continue here with an overpair, I'm at risk for my whole stack. And even if that's a subconscious message you're sending, I think you've got to put that aggression in like level 5 or gear 5, however you want to think about it, and really go for the max here. So I like your logic, I like your thoughts. That's one strategy I would use just to like tweak it a little bit and get that extra EV out of that raise. Anyway, he calls, which we expect, and we go heads up to the turn. The turn comes a 6, bringing a flush draw, pairing the board, really connected card here. But at the same time, we feel like we still have the best time, right? If our opponent had a set on the flop, especially with this small of a raise size, you'd think he would 3-bet us and probably apply a little more pressure with some of the straight draws out there. So I don't think he has a set, probably not 2-pair. If he does, whatever, we're gonna lose all our money anyway, so we might as well continue with the hand. Steven mixes it up a little bit, decides to check here, and I'm not really sure why. Like, I guess he's saying that, you know, he tried to be tricky, tried to mix it up, but at the same time, if your opponent had a hand that he could call a bet on the flop with, he probably has an overpair or top pair or some piece of that board, like 8-7 or something like that, maybe even a 6, maybe 6-7, 6-5. Those hands could all continue again on the turn, right? The 6 makes it less likely that you have a strong hand, Steven. Think about that. It's not a card that helped you, it's a card that hurt you, because on the flop, if you're repping 2-pair or a set, the chance that you have that now on the turn is reduced because another 6 came out, meaning there's less possibilities of sets and 2 pairs that you can have, right? There's only 1 combination of quads now, whereas before there were 3 combinations of sets, pocket 6s. So it's way less likely you have a strong hand now on the turn. So it makes it more likely you're bluffing when you bet. I would go ahead and bet here, and I would try and, scale this pot and get my stack in by the river. So I'd go ahead and bet, like, given the size of the pot and how much you bet on the flop, I'd bet like 120 here, 130 here on the turn. Whatever size I would bet as a bluff, I would bet with a value. It's important to be balanced. And then I'd bomb it on the river, man. I'd just jam it in on the river. That's what you should do. So anyway, you decided to check. I guess it's okay, but I just feel like most of the time, like, your opponent's not gonna bet. Even if he has 2 kings, he's like, it's kind of weird spot. Maybe my opponent has a boat. Maybe he's bluffing. I'm just gonna play pot control. I don't wanna get check raised. He's just gonna check behind, dude. So like all the hands that he would bet, he would call a bet with. And then you give him free cards on the hands that he would call a bet with, but he's not gonna bet himself. So I don't really love the check, man. It's not often that I lay down the hammer and I'm like, this is the best play, but I'm pretty damn sure that on the turn, you should bet. That's my logic, man. So I would bet the turn. Anyway, you decided to check, whatever it is, what it is. River comes to 4, pairing the board twice, doesn't bring the flush draw. So we got 8, 6, 4, 6, 4, right? Still unlikely that we're beat here. I mean, it's unlikely our opponent has a 4. It's unlikely he has a 6. He probably would have bet the turn with a 6. So, I mean, the only hand that beats us now is like a 4 that he somehow had on the flop. So still really likely we have the best hand. Still likely our opponent probably has an overpair. How do we get value? Steven compensates for the lack of value he got on the turn and bets the pot, which I like. I mean, shoot, let's be honest, man. It's really less likely you have it's way less likely you have a boat or a boat at this point because there's even less combinations of sets and 2 pairs you could have had now that the 4 came. And like, you're either repping, a boat or maybe a straight or air. And given that your range is so polarized here, like, why not bet big? And your opponent's probably going to call, you check the turn. I mean, he's probably not going to let go of his overpair. I would just bet big. And I like that you did that. You bet the pot, compensated for the lack of bet on the turn. And your opponent hemmed and hawed and called with, I'm assuming, what was an overpair. But I still think that if you bet the turn, you could have got 2 more streets of value, gotten your whole stack in. So you bet this hand and you won money and he called. But I think, missing value is the same thing as not making money. So I think we missed a little bit of an opportunity here. Could have got our stacks in, but interesting hand, well played. Congrats, you won the pot, and I hope you took something from it. If you guys like this video, you want more about my analysis with bet sizing, how to read your opponent's hands, figure out exactly what they have, putting them on a range, and narrowing that range down to a specific hand that you can use in any situation versus any opponent, check out my book, The 4 Steps to Beating Anyone at Poker. You can click on one of these links below here, and you'll get access to some of my best premier content ever. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time on the Hand of the Day. Cheers.